if you're depressed, I saw this with my son having suicidal ideation. I used to have conversations with him where I would, work to convince him that the equation was not static, that what he in his mind forecasted the outcome to be,
Yeah.
right? He felt he knew what the outcome was going to be. And, which is why I highly recommend that people who are depressed do not read Nietzsche. Nietzsche had his own problems in life. He might not be your best example, but, if you forecast out a darker outcome and you believe that there is no way that darker outcome will not happen, then a step toward taking your own life is not that big. It's really not that big of a step because you convinced yourself that this outcome that is really only one possible outcome, and because the variables will change, change can be affected and will happen whether you do anything or not. They will happen. Almost never is that forecast of that negative outcome guaranteed. It's not guaranteed to happen, right? It would almost be a random number generator if what you predicted did happen, right? Exactly the way you predicted it. And I think that led him to a great, I don't know whether that led him to depression or whether it reinforced his depression. But it reinforced to me that to never forget that while the equation is constant, the variables will change. They do change. And to not let that, what you believe the summation of the equation of your life to be, do not let that cause you to have overly negative thoughts because it's not guaranteed.
It isn't just that the variables will change, it's that your internal projection of a future outcome is when you project forward into a potential future, your brain omits and eradicates every other aspect of life that could
Yes.
seep into it, and only it presumes that your entire life will just be this one point, and it
It
won't
does.
be anything else going on, and it hyper focuses on it, and it blinkers you, and that's another exceptionally detrimental thing, is that your projection of a future isn't actually is a completely biased projection of the future. Not only because you're catastrophizing, but also, even if the worst thing did happen, you are forgetting all the other aspects of life that influence life and what happens. So it's such a biased viewpoint, and it's really so. I think that's almost what you said there is the key to extreme depression: is people make future projections and they can't see outside of those future projections, no matter what.
And
That
that,
is maybe the
I
key
agree
to the
with you.
whole thing.
I agree with you 100%. And I believe that had that absolutely had an impact on the decision making of my son. He could not pull back from, he could not give himself, to him, it was a falsehood that anything except what he thought the outcome would be. And it's
Yeah.
exactly what you said. There's a gentleman I've read who says that complex things cannot be simplified. Complex things
Mm.
are complex by nature.
Yeah.
And that the problem we have in dealing with complex things as humans is we add complicatedness to the complex thing. So if you had an old Swiss watch and you wanted to simplify it, you would have to remove gears and springs and components so that by the time you simplified it, it would not be that watch that it was when it started. And I think the way you just described life is exactly that. You simplify it to the point where your mind can make a projection, right? Because it can't deal with all these
Exactly.
variables. So it has to simplify it down to something. And this writer says that what you should do in your life is work to create straightforward solutions. Leave the complex thing complex and think of how you solve complexity, not how you simplify things. And I think to your point, that is exactly what happens. We can't forecast the future in a believable way unless we simplify it and remove all of the things that are actually part of it. So we haven't forecasted the outcome of life. We forecasted the outcome of some subset
Yeah.
of life that's not actually real.
Some biased
Yeah, it's a great
subset.
point. Thank you for making that.